Joining me right now is Illinois Congressman Krishnamoorthi, a Democratic member of the House Intelligence and Oversight and Reform Committees. Welcome, sir. Thank you for joining me. I know you just wrapped up an event, so I appreciate your time with us here on this Sunday. And it's because you are, sir, on this Intelligence Committee. So you have a sense of the security concerns in America. What do you know about this increased chatter, and how concerned are you about political violence as we approach these midterms in 30 days?
I'm very concerned. Actually, here in Chicago, there's a professor named Robert Pape who has done extensive research on this very topic at the University of Chicago. And what he found was, for instance, in the hours before Donald Trump took to Truth Social to heavily criticize the FBI for searching for those classified documents at Mar-a-Lago, the words civil war had appeared roughly 500 times an hour, which sounds like a lot to me. But after he said what he did, it then soared to 6,000 times per hour, peaking at 15,000 times per hour, Alex. And so, unfortunately, what he has also found is roughly 10% of American adults believe that political violence is an acceptable tool to bring Donald Trump back into the presidency. So this is very disturbing.
I'm actually trying to get my head around 500 times an hour to 15,000 times an hour. That's shocking and, frankly, very scary. As we look now at what's happening this week with the January 6th committee, next and potentially final hearing that's going to happen on Thursday, here's what former 1-6 committee investigator Denver Riggleman told my colleague Jonathan Capehart just a short time ago. Here it is.
They were marching to the tune of one drummer, and that drummer was Donald Trump, who really was the person who said this election was overthrown. And by December 19th, after his tweet, we see sort of a full court press, into January 6th.
Do you see a link between all of these? Civil war chatter increasing after Mar-a-Lago, the drumbeat from Donald Trump up to January 6th. I mean, is all of this in many ways at the feet of the former president, or is there a greater force at work?
I think both. I think that Donald Trump is certainly fomenting this rhetoric of political violence through the words that he uses, which are really dog whistles in many cases, and just in many cases, and then in other cases, overt calls to, basically, for instance, attack the FBI or to go after the FBI. But there's also an underlying strain, unfortunately, of people who believe that political violence is an acceptable tool. I think we have to do three things, Alex. We have to, first of all, hold people accountable, the insurrectionists on January 6th and those who committed crimes related to January 6th. Secondly, we have to hold accountable anybody who basically foments this rhetoric, whether they're a candidate or a current office holder. We have to hold them accountable at the ballot box on November 8th, 30 days from today. And then the third and final point is, I think for the rest of us, we have to basically call out political violence rhetoric for what it is and say that it's completely unacceptable in our discourse, whether you're a Democrat, Republican, or otherwise.
Amen to all of that. Let's talk about the committee, which is preparing to release its final report. How critical is the timing of all of this ahead of the midterms? I mean, how much impact do you think the committee's revelations will have on the way people vote?
Well, I've been knocking on a lot of doors, Alex, and when I knock on doors, I meet a lot of people. I also meet a lot of dogs, by the way, in this congressional district. But with the people, really interesting is that the topic of protecting and saving our democracy is among their top issues that they're concerned about, along with, reducing crime and gun violence, protecting reproductive freedom, fighting inflation, and so forth. And so when they think about protecting democracy and preserving it, they think of January 6th, the day that we stared into the abyss. And so they want to know, how are we going to hold people accountable associated with January 6th? And they want to absolutely run away from any notion that Donald Trump promulgates about pardoning the January 6th insurrectionists or anything of the like. So this report will be really important in kind of laying the definitive record as to what happened on January 6th and what are the next steps from here.
Quickly, sir, as we look at the midterms, there's some of the more controversial Republican House members. They seem to be in safe districts. However, this one caught my eye, that being The 3rd District of Colorado, in which a poll shows Lauren Boebert leading her opponent 47% to 45%. That's within the margin of error. You have another 7% still undecided. Do you expect voters may finally be holding some members of Congress accountable for what could arguably be their controversial words and actions?
I don't know. I need to pull out my crystal ball, Alex, and I need to find out how the Bears are going to do today as well. But I think that, with regard to Lauren Boebert, the fact that 7% of voters might be undecided with regard to the incumbent has to be a worrisome sign for her. All that being said, I think that Mr. Frisch and others are going to probably be campaigning on pocketbook issues that we're always talking about. But they should also be talking about democracy and how do we preserve and protect and save our democracy? How do we buttress what voters want, that I'm hearing every day, which is, just return to normalcy and not engage in the rhetoric that Ms. Boebert constantly engages in, and in terms of election denial or relitigating 2020 or talking about how January 6th was ordinary political discourse. That's stuff that voters I find, very upset about.
Yeah, absolutely. Illinois Congressman Raja Krishnamoorthi, thank you so much for spending some time. I know you have your track shoes on because you're going out and about your business there in your district in Illinois. So thank you so much.